On January 11th, 1842, in the city of New York, William James, the eldest of 5 siblings, was born to a prosperous, sophisticated, and deeply religious family. As he entered his youth, James' father hired gifted tutors and enrolled him in several private schools, both in America and Europe, hoping that he would become attached to and seek a career in the sciences or philosophy. What James discovered, however, was a vocation to pursue painting. Although he later gave it up, he would continue to paint with his words. At the age of 19, James began his medical studies at Harvard. At this time, the American Civil War was breaking out, but due to several health issues including neurasthenia, digestive disorders, and severe depression, James managed to avoid enlistment. Along with a lack of interest in his medical studies, health issues continued to beset his progress towards his MD. So in 1866, James, seeking relief, went to Germany for 2 years where he studied under Helmholtz and other leading physiologists. This was James' first taste of the new psychology. Upon completing medical school, James chose not to practice, but instead spent time studying psychology and pondering life. A breakthrough occurred for James in 1872, when not only was he offered a position at Harvard teaching comparative anatomy and physiology, but he also became inspired by an essay of James Renouvier to believe in the concept of free will. Within 3 years of teaching at Harvard, he began offering courses in physiological psychology despite never having taken any psychology courses himself. He once jested that the first lecture in psychology he ever heard was the one he himself taught. In the year 1878, James was approached by publisher Henry Holtz about writing a book about the new psychology. James, asking to be given 2 years to complete the book, only completed it in 1890, 10 years after its due date. This book, The Principles of Psychology, would become arguably the most important and influential book in American psychology's history. One of the key concepts James would become famous for was the stream of consciousness as it related to attention. Most books at that time discussed sensations as the simplest mental facts and then proceeded synthetically, constructing each higher stage from those below it. He felt this abandoned the empirical method of investigation, for how was one to have a simple sensation by itself? Consciousness, and what we refer to as simple sensations, according to James, is the result of discriminative attention pushed to a very high degree. James postulated that the only thing psychology had the right to suggest from the outset was that thinking of some sort occurred. He also noted that consciousness was a constant stream, a flow of thoughts constantly changing, unique to each person and their experiences and the objects that caught their attention. This phenomenon shouldn't and couldn't be studied thoroughly in bits and pieces, contrary to what later structuralists like Titchener would suggest. In James' book, The Principles of Psychology, he discusses the different kinds of attention that exist. He writes, "One's attention will always be directed towards things that interest us. Attention can either be towards objects that stimulate us in a sensorial or intellectual manner. Likewise, attention would be immediate in that the topic or stimulus draws one in without relation to anything else, or it can be derived, such as when a stimulus owes its attention to association with some other immediately interesting thing." In today's psychological studies of attention, we can see how James' words ring true about how we selectively absorb information from our environment. A famous study done shows 2 teams passing a basketball back and forth. Participants are asked to count the number of passes between a specific team. Many participants, however, fail to observe the actor dressed in a gorilla costume who passes by. So we can see that although our research in psychology is constantly changing, William James' ideas still live on.